Okay, we're getting ready to start Access Training lesson number 7. And in this lesson, we are going to cover creating a query using the wizard. And then we're going to go in and we're going to edit a query with the design view. We're going to add fields to a query. We're going to sort a query. And we're going to be adding a total to a query. And then we're going to add a criteria to the query. So let's go ahead and begin creating a query. So just like the form in the table, to create a query, we go to the Create tab at the top. And under Create, you're going to see you have two different options for a query. You have the Query Wizard and you have the Query Design. Now, for this lesson today, we're going to use the Query Wizard, which walks you through the steps of creating a query of your choice. Now you have a simple query, which is just a simple select query. We have a cross tab query, a find duplicates, and find unmatched. So we're going to go with a simple query. Alright, and in this query, you're going to see if I come up to queries and tables and I use my drop down, I can pick either the customer table, the loan table, or the state table. Let's go ahead and do the loan table only because of the reasons it has values in it. Now to start, I'm only going to pick 3 fields to look at, and that's going to be loan ID, customer ID, and loan type. Alright, from that point I'm then going to go next, and this is how we can create a title for our table. So notice that we're using customer table, loan table, state, customer table here for the form. So we're going to let it stay loan table query, but I'm not a big fan of putting spaces in the name, so we'll get rid of that space right there. And we'll go ahead and finish. And it's going to bring up our information here, right? So it's going to have our loan ID, our customer ID, and the loan type. Alright, so now that we created the query, we can now take a look at the design and anything else that we're going to cover in this lesson. So I'm going to go back home, and just to show you what the wizard does for us, I'm going to hit the down arrow and I'm just going to show you the SQL view. This is the code that you would have to do the same thing that the query is doing. And see, it's a select query. Okay, it's a select query. So let's go ahead and drop this down, and we're going to go into the design view, which we'll be doing a lot of our time working in the design view. Alright, so you're going to notice that we have our loan table right here, and you can see our fields. These are the fields we already have in there. Alright, so you got the field loan ID, customer ID, and loan type. And in here you can see that we have customer ID with loan table and not the customer table. So what we want to do is we want to add a couple fields here because we're editing it here. And real quick, just to show you that you can also, before we add, I'm going to click on the top of it, and I can drag it to be in front of loan ID. So instead of loan ID coming first, it's customer ID. And see the little run button here real quick? If I hit the run, it goes ahead and runs it real quick. You can see now that I switch customer with loan and loan type. So we can go right back into view, design view, and that's what that run does. It lets us run a real quick query. Alright, and then eventually we're going to take a look at each one of these, but this will let us change the type of query we're currently working on. So I told you we are going to add a few more fields to the query, and we could do that one of two ways. I'm going to show you the first way, and that's coming up here and dropping the arrow down. Now I want to show you the very first one where it says loan table dot star, And what that means, if you put that in there, that's going to include every field in the table. So it takes away that control of just picking and choosing which ones you want. So if you see that, that star is called a wild card. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add the loan description. So that's one way to do it, right? The other way is to click on the query and drag it over to the field you want. So that's our loan amount. So now that I look at view, all right, you can see that we have loan amount, loan description, which we just added, all right, loan type, which was there, loan ID, and customer ID. And just as we can add, we can remove one of two ways. So if I brought it in and took the check mark away, and then go ahead and hit the run button, you're going to see that it is no longer there. All right, and we do that sometimes when we're trying to ask a question of a table that we don't want that information result, so I might put that field in there just so I can do the question on that field. So we'll go ahead and check it again. All right, and now we're going to sort the table. So let's go ahead and come to loan type and just click on that box, drop that down, and we could do ascending or descending. So if I click ascending and go over there and hit run real quick, you're going to see that our table, our query, is now sorted by alphabetical order, and it shows us the different loan types we have. So if I go back to view, and you can do it on more than one field, because you can then come over here and click on ascending on that, go ahead and run it again, and it should do auto and in the reverse amount. All right, so you can see boat. Okay, so we're going to go back to view, and if we want to remove it, we can just either delete it or just hit not sort. Okay, so when we're in the query in this type of view, we're able to manipulate the information as we want it. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was adding a total to a query. So let's go back into view, and we'll go to data view. And all you have to do, just like our table, is click the total. And notice that it puts a total line down here. Now you're not going to want a total loan ID. You're not going to want a total customer ID, but you might want to total loan amount. So what you're going to do is come down to this line, and you're going to click on it. You'll get the drop down. You hit that. Now you have the average. You have the option of summing it, averaging it, counting it, which counts how many records are in there, find the max, the minimum, the standard deviation, or the variance. So let's go ahead and do sum, just to show you, and then we can change it to average. So if I drop that down, we can also do it to average. All right, so that gives you the option to total. Let's go ahead and we'll do it to sum. Okay, now the last thing I want to discuss in this video is adding what is called a criteria. And a criteria is something that we want to search on. So let's go to loan type, and notice we have a line that says criteria. Let's just type auto, and we'll see if by running it whether it's case sensitive. And notice it's not, but it just pulls the autos out of our table. And look what it does. It totals the amount of autos that we're keeping track of. Now if I go back and type boat, And what it does is it adds double quotes for us. I click on view or run. You're going to see that there's 2 boats, and there's the amount. Let's go back into view. Let's look at the SQL view, because we made some changes, right? So remember our SQL statement we had earlier, still a select statement, and we have some conditions here where you do an where and order by. And you see that where is the boat, and the order by is loan table, loan type. That's how we're ordering the table. So that kind of gives you an idea of the coding that takes place in the background when you're using the design view. So just remember that queries are used to ask questions of the database. All right, so they're used to ask questions of the database.